to sort of getting to know this next incoming class a little better and getting for an opportunity to sort of share our greater network with you. So we're glad you could join us today for this panel discussion regarding what we call AIM, our Alumni in Mentoring program, or Alumni Initiative in Mentoring. That's the AIM. I is an in too. Anyway, to get things started, who she'll do so far more eloquently than me, our facilitator for the AIM program that you'll probably have much more contact with is Heather Liz Copps. So Heather Liz, all yours.
Thanks, Amy. And thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to start by saying thank you to our panelists who are both alums and current students for being with us today to talk about the AIM program and its benefits to students at Albany Law School. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started. This program is probably going to be best viewed in speaker mode, and please make sure that you remain on mute during the program. We will have a Q&A session after the panel is over. You're welcome to put your questions in the chat throughout the program, and we'll be sure to get to as many of them as we can. This program is also being recorded, so please feel free to stop your video if you're not comfortable being on the recording. And if you have any follow-up questions after the program, you can email them to either admissions@albanylaw.edu or alumni@albanylaw.edu, and we'll be happy to get you answers afterwards. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce you all to our moderator for today's discussion, Rob Rausch, Albany Law School class of 1994. Rob is a partner at the Albany law firm of Maynard, O'Connor, Smith, and Catalanato. Prior to joining the firm, he served as law clerk to the Honorable Irid S. Ingraham, Supreme Court Justice for Chenango County and class of 65. Mr. Rausch performs both trial and appellate work in a wide variety of personal injury matters. He is admitted to practice in New York state courts, several federal courts, and the U.S. Supreme Court. He is a past president of Albany Law School's National Alumni Association, is a frequent presenter at law school events, and in 2019, he was honored with Albany Law School's Excellence in Alumni Service Award. Mr. Rausch is a member of several local bar associations and is the past president of the Capital District Trial Lawyers Association. He earned his BA degree from Lemoyne College and his JD degree from Albany Law School. Please welcome Rob Rausch.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather Liz. Thank you, all of you, for joining us here today and for your interest in Albany Law School. We're really happy to have you as part of the law school community. And I think you'll find throughout your time here, we really do have a great sense of community and support amongst each other. I can tell you personally, for me, it's particularly resonated during this weird time that we're in as classmates, friends of mine at school, faculty, we're all checking in on each other, all supporting each other. And it's not unique to that. I think you'll find this experience to be true throughout your law school experience. There's just great camaraderie between the students and the alumni. And that really begins right here with the AIM program. So that's a pretty good segue. Before I talk about the AIM program, I just want to introduce the other panelists who will be part of this today. And just ask if, as I mentioned, if you just give a little wave to everyone else here. We have quite a few people here today, other alumni and students who are joining us for the panel. In no particular order. First, Renee Behrens. Renee is a member of the class of 2012, currently serves as assistant counsel for the New York State DMV counsel's office. Prior to that was in the bureau chief at the Rensselaer County District Attorney's Office Vehicular Unit. Is very involved with the Capital District Women's Bar Association, adjunct professor at University of Albany, very involved with returning to the law school for many of the different programs that we do, the moot court competition, speaking in class, just a great supporter of the law school. We're happy to have here on the panel today. Joe Rosati, class of 2015. Joe was a member of Albany Law Review, participated in moot court and mock trial programs. He participated in a number of internships throughout the law school, including clerking for Honorable Randy Treese in the Northern District of New York, the Albany County District Attorney's Office, and clerking in where his current firm, Cahill, Gordon, and Reindell in New York City, where he focuses his practice on corporate law with emphasis on mergers and acquisitions and capital markets. So thank you, Joe. Alyssa Rodriguez, class of 2018, was Executive Director of the Moot Court Program, Vice President of Student Bar Association, very involved with the Pro Bono Society, and Associate Editor of the Albany Law Review. She, during law school, clerked for a civil litigation firm, clerked for Honorable William McCarthy in the Appellate Division, and was an internship in the Albany Law School Health Law Clinic, in which she, and we'll talk about clinics a little later, but was very involved through that clinic and representing particular clients in state and federal courts. Very involved in the moot court and mock trial programs, and actually won the Capitalistic Trial Lawyers Association award for her efforts and successes in those programs. Alyssa is currently at the firm of Fixler and Lagatuda in New York City. And thank you, Alyssa, for your participation today. Rebecca Wager, class of 2019. Rebecca works here in the Albany area, practicing matrimonial and family law with the firm of Cops DePaulo Silverman. Say hi to Lorraine for me. She received the Kate Stoneman Award at graduation for all of her work for the law school. She was very involved with the Pro Bono program and receiving their Platinum Public Service Award for completing over 750 hours of pro bono work at the law school, and was also very involved with clinical programs here with the Family Violence Clinic and Domestic Violence Clinic. And I can, as an aside, and I think you'll find out, and many people on this panel will agree with me, the clinical programs that we have here are one of the best experiences you can have in law school. So please take advantage of those programs. There's your first free advice of the day. We also have several current students who are involved with our panel today to talk about their experience as mentees. First, Jess Howler. Jess is a member of the class of 2021. She is currently a teaching assistant in several classes. She will be president of the Health Law Society and selections editor for Journal of the Science and Technology. This summer, she'll be working in the Health Law Department at O'Connell and Aronowitz. Prior to law school, was a volunteer EMT and worked at Albany Med. And I understand that Jess had a fantastic mentor during her time at law school. And last but not least, Mina Mirzai, class of 2022. Mina is, she'll be entering her second year next year, focused on client advocacy. She'll be working at the Attorney General's office this summer. And I thought this was really interesting, started this past year the Albany Law Literary Circle, which is open to students, faculty, incoming students, a great summer book club, essentially, to get everyone engaged and talk about their different passions and interests. So thank you, Mina, as well. So I want to begin with just a quick overview on the AIM program to tell you a little bit about the program before we get into some more specific questions. The AIM program's been around in a variety of different manners for, gosh, maybe 15 years or so. And it's really, I think, taken off in the past several years, thanks to the efforts of the Alumni Office. They've really done a great job in restructuring the program and re-energizing it. The way the AIM program works is students who are interested in participating in the program, and I would encourage everyone to do that, are paired up with an alumni mentor. And as a good sign of the program and a good sign of the level of alumni engagement we have, there have been years when we have more alumni who are interested in participating as mentors than we have students to pair them up with. So there's some great opportunities to engage with an alumni, and there's a method to the madness in which they pair people up with a mentor. Sometimes there's a natural relationship between your interests and kind of field you want to practice in. Sometimes there's an interest in a personal interest or background. And everyone who's interested is interested in participating paired up with an alumni mentor. There are some fantastic Albany Law School rock star alumni who are participating in this program. Some lucky students end up getting paired up with judges. I think the current chief judge of the Appellate Division is also a very active mentor in the program. So imagine the luck of the draw if you get paired up with someone at that level of success. But beyond that, we have alumni in every field of practice, geographically throughout the state and country. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to engage at this early stage with the alumni. And you'll learn very early on, one of the most important things and skills you can pick up is networking. And this is really a great opportunity to meet an attorney who's in practice, learn about their field, ask them anything you want. You'll find we're attorneys. We love talking. We love talking about ourselves. We're full of helpful advice. So we are here in every way to support you. The AIM program works in a number of different ways and a number of different opportunities that you'll have to interact with your mentors. The mentors involved in some small group mentors discussions where perhaps there'll be a number of students paired up by some sort of practice area interest or some common interest. We'll have opportunities to meet in small groups with mentors. We have the alumni mentors coming in to speak in classes or in many different programs that the AIM group will put on, and the alumni office will help sponsor, and also primarily the one-on-one mentorship. And that's where I think you'll find most of your interaction with the mentors are. And it's any number of different communications, email, phone. Right now, we've actually been doing much more virtual mentoring, something new for all of us. And oftentimes, mentors are able to bring their student mentees along to actually observe litigation or to come into practice, watch them in court, watch them in their daily activities. So any number of different ways to interact with your mentor. And it's really the opportunity for you as students to learn about practice, learn about what we do. And, you know, we always say that the purpose of the mentorship program is not to necessarily help someone land a job. That absolutely is an opportunity sometimes, but most often one of the biggest benefits is to use us as a tool to help you make connections. And you'll find, and this is not unique to the mentorship program, but the Albany Law alumni are very, very supportive of our students, and we are here to help you. So we may very well be able to pair you up with someone who matches your needs and might steer you in the direction of landing a job or an internship. So that's a grand overview of the mentorship program. I want to throw it out to some of our panelists here today to talk about their particular experiences with the program. So let me begin by throwing out a very general question to several of our current mentors and ask, how did you choose to become a mentor, and really what do you bring to the mentorship experience? I'll begin with Renee.
Hi, good morning. So for me personally, Albany Law was actually my second law school. I transferred as a 2L into Albany Law. They had a program like this at my first school, and I was paired with a mentor that didn't really reach out to me. So I'm not sure if this program was around when I was in law school, and I imagine it was, but what I wanted to do was, when I graduated in 2012, I came back the following year and started mentoring right away. I had a lot of mentors throughout law school, especially through Albany Law, who were so beneficial to helping me make really good decisions as far as internships and job applications, anything from, personal essays and resume, cover letters, anything like that. They were available to me. So they were really instrumental in guiding me to getting to where I wanted to go upon graduation and passing the bar. So for me, it was really important to come back to the law school and give something back to the next generation. I think one of the most valuable things you can possibly do is take on a mentor role as someone who's been successful and accomplished what they set out to do. I think it's really critical for people to make sure that the next generation is coming up, even stronger than we came up, so that we can continue that tradition of excellence at this school. So for me, I've been involved with this program basically since the year after I graduated. And I've had a lot of experience with different students, some who join and kind of lose track of them after a while because they don't really know what they want out of the program. Most of the students that I've particularly worked with stay really engaged with me. And that's because we do have something in common, whether it's geographically where we're based, like we're from the same hometown, or they're interested in fields that I've practiced in, whether that was criminal or civil law. I've been able to help guide some of them in a variety of ways, even as something as simple as, what courses to take next semester. So I think the program is phenomenal because it's really catered to you. It's whatever you need to get out of it. The mentors are really flexible, and really we're here to see you succeed. We want to see you do as best as you can.
Thanks. Joe?
Yeah, thank you, Rob. I agree with a lot of what Renee had said there. Two parts for me in wanting to stay involved in the program. One is to give back. I had a lot of great mentorship relationships when I was in law school through the AIM program first, then a lot of our professors, and then, eventually professional colleagues. But, so that's the first part of it, is just helping you navigate some of those first law school decisions that you have to make. What classes should I take? Should I clerk? Should I do this internship? Geographically, where might I want to be? And then the second part of it is, for myself, I get a lot out of the AIM program as well from the mentor side. It keeps me engaged with both current students, new students, once you leave law school, it's easy to kind of lose track of those classes that weren't there when you were there. And by having a mentee every year, you kind of have someone from each class year or every other class year that you now have that relationship with. And it keeps me involved also with other alums and, the alumni on these panels like this that I otherwise might not get the opportunity to interact with. Now you continue to build that network.
Thanks, Joe. And I will certainly echo a comment that Joe made. It's a very reciprocal relationship. And I think the great mentor-mentee relationship is both of us gain things from this. And I've certainly found it's the most successful ones I've had have been ones where the students I'm paired up with are the most engaged. And I've certainly learned as much from them, I think, as they have from me. So let me bring in some of our newer graduates and kind of straddle the next question we had to tell us about your experience as a student mentee and how you've brought that to your experience as a mentor. Alyssa, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So as far as why, what I brought to the mentorship program, when I want to say that AIM probably started like right when I started law school in 2015. And I'm originally from Texas. So I got up and moved halfway across the country by myself, me and my dog. And so it was really important to me to foster relationships and friendships with, a community that I had no ties to. It was either AIM or another diversity mentorship through Barclay Damon, which is also a prominent law firm in Albany. And I really just hit the jackpot with that mentorship program because the woman I was paired with, she had graduated, some odd years before, but there was a new associate who had just graduated the year before I started law school at Albany Law. And so it was really cool to get the perspective of somebody that had graduated, 20 years before me and somebody that had graduated just now. And then the younger associate ended up clerking for Judge Garcia. And so it was just so crazy that they both kind of took me under their wings. And it was a surprise to get two mentors when I hardly expected to connect with one. And it was, like I said, very helpful for me to figure out even where things were in Albany. I was new. I called it Albany for the first 6 months and nobody told me I pronounced it wrong. So it was not only just law school related help, it was life help. And it really changed. I had a wonderful experience at Albany Law. And it was because of those relationships that I made. And that was what really prompted me as soon as I graduated. And as Jeff knows, I'm always like, what do you need? I can't give you $1 million now, but I'll give you my time. I'll give you unsolicited advice, I'm sure. So it has been, as Joe and Robert both said, incredibly, a mutual benefit for being a mentee and also being a mentor.
And Rebecca, so maybe same question to you tell us about your experience as a mentee and what it's brought to what you do as a mentor.
Sure, thanks, Rob. So I didn't have a formal mentor through the AIM program itself, but I was lucky because, before law school, I had worked for 4 years full time, and I don't really have any attorneys in my family, and I knew a couple of attorneys here and there, but I didn't really understand what attorneys actually do. I just knew that I wanted to be helping people. I knew that I wanted to be in a courtroom, but I really didn't know anything else. So I think having a mentor for me was essential. And I was lucky because I found 2 mentors and the 2 partners for the firm that I currently work at, which has been amazing. So it's a women-owned firm. And I think that was a unique perspective too. It's just women foraging their way in the legal field. And I think there's a lot of different unspoken things about being an attorney in terms of, especially, I work in litigation particularly. So there's a lot of these unspoken professional courtesies that you only learn when you're out there and you're doing it and you're watching it and you're seeing how people actually do a trial and what kind of work goes into that. So I think just for me, having the experience of really getting to dive in and see what real actual attorneys do. And I was lucky because my mentors let me follow them around a little bit and go to different events with them, see their trials, go to client meetings, sit into conferences and take notes. I think all those experiences were very formative in terms of knowing what to expect and what I wanted to do on the other side of once law school was over.
Yeah, that's great advice, Rebecca. And it's, we don't really know until we're out there just how important a mentor is to all of us. I wish we had this AIM program when I was there. My father was a graduate, but he's a tax attorney. I have no idea what's involved with that. It involves numbers. So right away I fall asleep. I have no idea what that's involved. And, we all find mentors in different ways. The judge that I work for was a wonderful mentor for me. And it's just so important to have someone who can help give you some more insight into really what practice is like. So on that note, maybe throw it to start with you, Joe. Just tell us the importance, and it doesn't have to be limited to the AIM program, the importance of having a mentor and what you've gained from that.
Definitely. So I've gained a ton. As I mentioned, I've had kind of mentor relationships throughout law school and obviously before as well. But as far as Albany Law, the AIM program kind of started it off with simple questions like, what classes should I take next year? And then you get to some professors that you start to build relationships with, whether it be in the subject matters you like or not. And those questions kind of turn to, again, what classes should I take, but what internship should I do? How, a lot of our professors at Albany Law previously practiced law in some capacity. And so there's a lot of great insight there in terms of, how will this be viewed professionally? How will it be viewed academically? Am I going in the right direction for what my ultimate goals are? And you might not know what those ultimate goals are, but you can always kind of go down that road. And then eventually you'll have professional colleague mentors. And, for me, I think of that as, the partner that hired me at my current firm. She's an Albany Law graduate and has been very involved in recruiting folks at our firm, for our firm from Albany Law. And I kind of use her for everything, both professional stuff such as networking, business development, firm politics. That's always a huge one. I mean, if you're lucky enough to have a mentor like that at your firm, but those kind of professional things that you might not otherwise get the right insight on. And then also work-life balance. Commuting. I almost moved to Westchester after my last lease was up and working in New York City. My mentor just told me, I've done it and I don't know if you want to do it right now based on, the conversations we've had and what you want out of your career. It might not be the right move. Here's why. And it's kind of invaluable. I mean, and it's obviously a specific example because my mentor happens to be at my firm. But even if you don't have that, you can always find professional colleagues that you kind of say, that's the lawyer that I want to be like. And maybe it's not all encompassing in one person, but you might have 2 or 3 people and say, I like this, aspect of their practice or how they conduct themselves or any of those things. And I guess the idea is you then kind of create a blend of what are your favorite characteristics of all your mentors, and then hopefully pass that along down the line to your mentees.
Renee, same question to you. Tell us about some of the importance of mentors that you've had.
Actually, I really agree with what Joe just said about kind of taking the best characteristics of what you've seen other people do. That is so applicable to a lot of things in law school in general. You're going to figure out like what particular study habits work the best, what kind of characteristics and personality traits and ways people conduct themselves professionally work in the courtroom versus work in the office. There's a lot of different kind of roles that all of that can play for you going forward.
I want to bring our current students into the mix to begin with. Tell us what, from your perspective as a current mentee, makes for a good mentor-mentee relationship. Jess, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Rob. And yes, you were the best mentor, don't worry. And Becca. Becca's another mentor of mine. I've been very lucky. But I would say communication. I know it seems like pretty obvious, but I think that sometimes students are afraid that they might be bothering their mentor, and maybe their mentor is afraid that they might be bothering their mentee because, they're first-year law students and there's a lot of work, obviously. So I think don't be afraid to reach out. Your mentors have signed up because they want to help you. If you've just listened to everything that everyone has said, they're here, they want to help you. They want to provide you with resources, with advice. So just don't be afraid. You're not being annoying. They want to help.
Mina?
Just to piggyback off of what Jess just said, I would just say having an honest and open relationship with your mentor is so important. We're not all perfect beings. And, even in those moments of difficulty, once you have a mentor, don't be afraid to be a little imperfect sometimes. We're not going to have great days every day. And even in those times of struggle, it's so nice to be able to reach out to someone who's made it through. Sometimes that can be the difference between, studying those last couple of hours for your next exam or just kind of throwing your hands up and saying, I can't do this anymore. So I've really found value in being open and honest about my intentions and my goals and the reality of, my circumstance in relation to my amazing mentor. And she's actually pregnant right now, right? So we're talking about her pregnancy during COVID. And meanwhile, I'm talking about how I have Zoom classes during COVID. It's a weird mix of, we're all facing struggles in a certain way, both in our careers and our personal lives. And we can come together, especially in a mentor-mentee relationship, and just be open and honest about them. It can be kind of therapeutic.
Yeah, good advice. Renee, your thoughts?
I actually also echo that with some of my, like I said earlier, some of it's going to be different every time you have a new mentor or a new mentee, because it really, whatever works for the two of you is what's best for the two of you. So I've had students that I've worked with where we talk a lot about their personal lives and how to balance school and internships and dealing with sometimes some pretty serious like family issues and things like that. And then I've had other students who really just want to keep it very professional, and they want to talk about internships, and they want to talk about, how to handle like some kind of a supervisor or whatever they're experiencing at the time. And for those ones, really your mentors are going to be so happy to cater to whatever your needs are. But truly the best thing you can do is communicate with your mentors, because most of us are willing to kind of modify whatever we're used to doing with whomever to really meet your needs. So to get the best of what you can out of this program, I would say try to stay in the best contact that you can with your mentors. because we always want to hear from you. I always tell my mentees, please reach out to me. Even if you just want to tell me, how your day's going, I'm always happy to hear from them.
Alyssa?
Same thing as everyone has said as far as communication. I mean, I've had mentees that we talk maybe once a week, and then I have unofficial mentees where, every now and then you just check in, hey, this is what's going on in my semester. And I think it goes both ways. So I think when I first started as a mentor, I had to realize that, I had to remember as a 1L, you are so busy, you could hardly remember to make yourself dinner. So I forget who had said, that they didn't want the mentees to feel, or mentors to feel like we were bothering the mentees. And a lot of it is defined by whatever relationship works for the two of you. You could talk all the time, you could talk once a semester. But I think the most important thing is knowing that somebody is there, even if that you have one question a year. And I think that can really be beneficial. And really, like I said, just communicating between the two of you.
Yeah. Rebecca?
Sure. And I mean, everyone's been saying such wonderful things that I think are so accurate. And Jess, like you were saying, I remember feeling really scared to reach out to people, especially attorneys, knowing that, I'm like, oh, these people are amazing writers and they know everything about grammar and I don't want to mess up my email to them. But I think that, you can absolutely be professional and still be personal, I think, with your mentor. And something else that I think was really helpful to me as a mentee and what I try to do as a mentor is kind of just, acknowledge the fact that there are a lot of little steps along the way, especially when you first start school and then you realize, oh my gosh, I had to take this thing called the New York Law exam. And then there's all these other things like the MPRE for ethics. And it just seems like a lot, especially when you learn about it all at once in the beginning. But I had a really wonderful mentor and just some older students when I was a 1L. And I think that just knowing they're like, yeah, just tackle one thing like each semester, like do an upper level writing requirement one semester, do a clinic another semester, do your MPRE a little bit later on in a different semester. And it's just that you can build off of these relationships. And I think that even if you get a mentor through the AIM program, I think just understand that you can find mentors in everyone, and I don't overlook people like paralegals and clerks and other people that have staff positions in law firms and places that you're working, because they are fountains of knowledge. And I mean, some things that I've really learned from even some of the paralegals in my office, one of which who's been there for like 40 years just doing paralegal work. And she's amazing. And she just knows all these different things. So just know that everyone that you interact with, at the law school and outside of it, you can learn something from them.
Yeah, and I'll follow that up with you raise a really great point just for practice in general. The people at your firm who know the most are sometimes the support staff. I mean, they know more than I do. I have no idea how to file something to this day, but they do. So that's another piece of free advice when you're out there in practice. Don't overlook the staff. They know everything, and they will make you look better too. Joe, tell us your thoughts too about what makes for a good mentor-mentee relationship.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. The staff run the law firms. We're just there to help out. But yeah, don't be discouraged if, as someone said, it's tough to connect with your mentor all the time, whether it's your schedule or their schedule. You guys as students are kind of undertaking a new animal in law school, and especially 1L year, it's going to be crazy to an extent, and certainly different than your undergrad experience. But also, it's until you get out of law school and until you get into practicing law, and you do your first trial or you bill your first 300-hour month. I mean, when it really gets about as busy as it could possibly get, that's when you realize, well, when my mentor, was tough to get a hold of, it wasn't personal. It wasn't that they were annoyed speaking with me or that they didn't have time for me. It's just that it gets that crazy, and sometimes you need to just work that much harder to make those connections. And so I can promise you, it's not personal. Folks are busy, you guys are busy, we're busy. So just keep at it and don't get discouraged if you miss a couple calls or something.
I like, Joe, how you just casually dropped, build your first 300-hour month. That's impressive.
Hopefully not many of those.
And I'll just certainly echo a lot of things, what everyone else before me has said, that don't be afraid to reach out to your mentor. We really are here to support you. And we've been through almost everything you've been through already. I've been out 25 years now, and the things that people are going through in their first years, the same struggles that people have are the same struggles that I faced years ago. So we've all been through this together, and Joe's right. We may not get back right away, but we're there. We're here to help and support you any way we can. So I want to throw it out to everyone again with another question to just offer. We've touched on some of this before, and we've certainly all said to don't be afraid of contacting your mentor, but perhaps offer just a nugget of advice as to how people can make the most of their mentor-mentee relationship. So Joe, I guess we'll just go in reverse order, start with you again.
Sure. I would say be honest, and people have mentioned honesty in a lot of different ways in terms of your relationship with your mentors. But be honest about what you're interested in, and don't be afraid if that's different than what your mentor might be doing. If you get paired up with me and you have no interest in corporate law, no offense taken, good on you. I would say, you never know who your mentor might know. And so you can always gain something from that relationship, even if, you're not going to say, well, I hope my mentor gets me a job at their firm. That might not be what is meant to come out of that relationship, but they might put you in touch with people who can get you that job, or who can put you in touch with the right person. So, I would not be afraid to say, sounds great, but I'm not really interested in this. Here is what I'm interested in. What do you think about that?
Rebecca?
Yeah, I think Joe makes a good point with that. I think especially because, your mentor could know someone that will connect you to someone else, and it just keeps flowing from there. And I think your network is very valuable in that respect, especially when you get out into practice. But I also would keep in mind, I think, especially when people find out that you're a 1L, they'll kind of say like what worked for them, and that's wonderful. And you can pick and choose what works for you, but ultimately you're going to be developing your own style. And I think that was really important to remember. I was coming from a background in student affairs where it was a little, touchy-feely, all about kindness and helping others. And, at first when you're at law school and people are kind of being a little bit competitive in the first year, and it's a little bit, people will be talking about ranking and grades. And I'm just not, I was never that kind of person. And I always kind of knew I wanted to, I didn't want to do big law. So there are certain goals that, everyone's pushing for certain goals, like maybe it's being on journal or doing something else, but recognize like what your end goal is and try to develop a sense of that, because sometimes goals will be presented to you, but if they're not going to fit into what you do in the end, like don't put that pressure on yourself to finish out. And I think, if you're maintaining that sense of self and purpose, I think that will really help you out in the end, just because so many people will be throwing really wonderful advice and different things, but just make sure it fits in with where you want to be.
That's great advice. Renee, your thoughts about how to make the most of the relationship between mentor and mentee?
Yeah, I agree with the honesty perspective. So for example, my last mentee, we were originally paired up because she had an interest in criminal law, which I had done previously. So, we talked about that. She went through an internship and decided that she didn't actually like criminal law. And she had some other ideas as far as where she wanted to go next. And I know people who work for the Senate and the Assembly. So I was able to put her in touch with some people, and she was able to get a different internship for the following semester, doing something that she's much more interested in. So the networking is really valuable because even if we can't ourselves give you advice on something, we usually have friends or at least can network to someone who probably does have that experience and who can kind of get you to where you want to be. So, when you're honest and when you're very forthcoming with what you're looking for, I think it's easier for your mentors to kind of help get you there. So, yeah.
No, great advice. And, and that it's a good opportunity to mention the great work that the Alumni office does as well. And Renee's right that this is just a wonderful opportunity to make connections. And if we don't know people within our own personal networks to pair you up with, the Alumni Office and Career Planning Office can help find people as well. We like saying that Albany Law alumni are, I think we're in 49 states. We've got everyone except for North Dakota. One of you maybe can be the one to finally move to North Dakota. We can color in that map, but we can always find someone to pair you up with who might match your practice areas and interests. Alyssa, tell us about your thoughts.
Yeah, so I would say two things. One, be a sponge. You're going to meet so many people throughout your law school career that, you know, might be a good mentor for a month, for one specific, you know, goal that you had, or for all 3 years. And you're going to learn, I think Beck had said this, about so many different people's approaches to practice, approaches to study. And the more that you learn from a bunch of different people, you get obviously more options on you know, what could work for you, but then you can really understand also what might not work for you. You know, you might, this sounds kind of bad, but you might see how somebody does something and say, I don't want to do it that way, but that's also valuable too. And secondly, also give back. So my mentors were so wonderful, and I always brought, you know, my friends along for anything. I had 2 best girlfriends from law school. If I had coffee with my mentor, I would ask, you know, oh, can X and Z come along? And they would say, oh, great. And so it was kind of like spread the wealth. You know, they might have questions and not have as much access to somebody, you know, like I do, or vice versa. And so it was really nice to kind of spread that around, to say like, oh, I met you know, so-and-so through a moot court competition, or this, that, and the third, and to help your friends connect with other people. And that, I think somebody had said this at the very beginning, is really the uniqueness with Albany Law. I mean, it's small, but because of that, you get the benefits of really having one-on-one interactions with, you know, judges of the Court of Appeals or at the Appellate Division. And that really just comes from not being afraid to put yourself out there, and, you know, really just trying to make yourself known.
Mina?
I have to echo so much of what Alyssa just said. I just wanted to say, avoid comparison. Especially when you're starting your law school career. One of the best pieces of advice I received literally the second day I was at Albany Law, and I thank this 3L, she is now graduated. I thank her so often for this. She just says, stay in your own lane and make sure you're very aware of the horizon. Meaning, you know, you'll have so many things going on around you, other people with different types of mentors, different types of relationships, whether it's, as Alyssa is saying, going and having coffee, or maybe a little bit more infrequent, like my mentor's in New York City right now. She's, you know, she and I cannot physically be in each other's presence, but of course we'll have phone conversations or Zoom conversations. So this is all to say, you know, avoid comparison, but of course keep in mind that there's a whole horizon out there for you to keep growing and to keep, you know, spreading that wealth and being able to meet new people. Just because you have a mentor doesn't mean that that person is the end all for your learning. You know, you can go through even your own peers, understanding that every single person you meet in law school, whether they are, you know, side by side with you in your class, or whether they've graduated 20 years ago, everyone has something to offer that you can learn from. So always be open. I believe, as Renee was saying, or I think Alyssa was saying, Alyssa, so many great points, to be a sponge and to not just, you know, kind of have blinders on. Stay in your own lane, but of course be aware of that horizon is what I'd say.
Great advice. Jess?
I think everything that everyone said has been on point. And I just want to add, ask if you can shadow, because Rob was so kind to let me shadow a deposition. I'd never seen one before. I'm also someone that came from a background, nobody in my family's a lawyer. I don't have a background in law or anything. So it was really valuable for me to get some hands-on experience and actually see what goes on and what a lawyer actually does. And also, if you get a mentor that is a recent grad, ask for their outlines if they have them still. I have a mentor through another program, and she was a 2018 grad, and first question she asked me was, do you want all my outlines? Yes, take them. Definitely take them.
That's great advice. And, you know, I'll certainly echo everything everyone has said. I think that the key to a successful relationship is the communication, is the open and honest communication. The way the AIM program works is the alumni office will once in a while send out almost a bulletin with just a framework of some different questions that a mentor mentee might want to discuss, but really anything is fair game. And I think the one thing that I've heard from students the most is this fear and concern that they don't know what they want to do for the rest of their life. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing, I think, at this point in law school. If you know exactly what you want to do, that's wonderful. But had you asked me when I was a first year, what do I want to do for practice? I would have said anything but trials and appeals. And that's what I do every day now. And it's only by just trying something. So, that's the best advice I can give to a mentee or to anyone is, law school is your opportunity to really test yourself, try things you might not have tried otherwise, because you never know what's going to strike a passion for you. And a lot of that comes from talking to your mentors. And when we have the large group receptions, and the receptions are great. The mentors come out in droves for that. If there's free food and alcohol, alumni are going to come out and talk to everyone, not just your own mentor. And we'll be happy to introduce you to someone else just to learn about different fields of practice. And you may not think you have an interest in family law or tax law or corporate law, but just by talking to someone, learning about what they do really can help inspire you in ways you wouldn't expect. As we close in on the program, again, just want to encourage everyone, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll get to them with the time left. But I just want to throw back to our student panelists one last time. Just anything else about your experience with the AIM program that you'd like to share, or I'll even throw it out bigger. Any other thoughts about your experiences in law school that you want to share to these incoming students to help them make the most of their experience? Jess, we'll start back with you again.
Well, I would say one piece of advice that was given to me on a panel I think it was an Accepted Students Day panel that I went to, but somebody said, get as many mentors as possible. So anytime I see a mentorship program through Albany Law, I always sign up. It's always valuable to have as many people there. It's great networking. And I was so lucky to have Rob and Becca as mentors in law school. And it's definitely been valuable for me in my career. Rob can attest to this. I emailed him all last summer asking questions about interviewing and resumes, and he even gave me some advice for an interview, and I ended up getting the job. So I'm very thankful for that. And it's also, I would encourage everyone to get mentors, especially if you are coming from a family with no lawyers or you just don't know any lawyers. It's helpful to have someone that actually is doing the job and can give you the best advice and kind of guide you a little bit. And also if you're coming from a different career path too, I kind of had both. So it was great to have people that were really supportive. And one last thing that Becca said to me that I still carry to this day is, your limits, and when you're done, you're done. And that is my probably biggest piece of advice for first year is, when you're done and it's time to walk away, and just know that.
Great. Mina?
Yeah, that was obviously great advice from Jess. She's going into her 3L year. So I'm holding on to everything she just said. So that's fantastic. What I would say is that you're about to walk into a life-changing, frankly, because I'm almost about to complete in 48 hours my first year of law school. And it is life-changing in terms of how you think, in terms of how you speak, in terms of, how you see the world, quite frankly. And I know that's a huge statement, but I say all this to say that in the process, do reach out. This is not an endeavor that can be done on your own. Even if you're an independent person, that's a beautiful thing, but you need to have a support system. And even if it's not just with your family, it needs to be with people who can relate. And, who better than attorneys, who better than, your fellow students, and of course, who better than in this program. I would say this program is a testament to our school, to the kind of support system we have at Albany Law that is so unique to so many, as compared to so many law schools. I wish you guys could see, you incoming first years could see the kind of togetherness that we fostered despite, this whole circumstance. Albany Law is the place for this kind of contact and communication and togetherness. And please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has. But this AIM program is such a huge aspect of developing a support system and developing a place where you can just further yourself in your endeavor as you enter your law school career.
Wow, I couldn't have thought of a better way to end this. Well said, Mina. With our little bit of time left, if anyone else here has a question, you're welcome to put it in the chat or raise your hand and we can get it to you. Any takers? No.
You know, Rob, maybe for Jessica or Mina, like what possessed you to kind of get started? Yeah, like what kind of questions do you have about kind of joining a mentor program? Like, were you a little bit nervous about it? Like, was there, because I think there's that awkward growing stage in a mentor program, right? Where you're like, I'm a little nervous to meet this person for the first time. What's it going to be like? Can I get a perspective on that? Sorry, Rob, I sort of just jumped in.
No, that's great. Mina?
Sure, that's a great question. Like Jess, I actually am the first person in my whole family, even extended family, to go to law school. We were just a bunch of engineers and doctors, and everyone was like, oh, okay. You know, you can go ahead and do that. I was actually a deeply committed pre-med, and, you know, I had a very life-changing experience in the clinic that prompted me to go spend a year working as a paralegal in a law firm that then forayed me to actually go to law school because I was like, I love this. But this is all to say, you know, in answer to your question, when, you know, you are so new to this world, what better way to foster a relationship than through a dedicated program like this, where the person you're asking questions to, as Alyssa was mentioning much earlier, this person, you know, you're not burdening them. You know, they're here to answer your questions. They want to answer your questions. So it's a beautiful thing when, you know, you don't feel like you're annoying someone, and they're so willing to answer as well.
Jess?
I was definitely nervous at first, but Rob reached out to me like right away. So and I don't remember exactly what your email said, but I know that after that I felt better, and then we had the AIM reception and we talked there, and after that I emailed you all summer. So I think the initial contact, especially when you're a first year, is a little bit, it can be nerve-wracking, but I think I've never met an Albany Law alum that wasn't welcoming and supportive. So now I would say don't be nervous.
Oh, and thank you, Jess, for all the kind words. And I'll kind of throw this back on you too, that I think that that mentor relationship that I had with Jess was the most successful one that I've had in 15 years or so of doing this, and the level of engagement. And I think that's how you can make the most of the program. Well, if I can then hijack the program just a little bit, and maybe just for last words from our other panelists, and we'll go a little bit off topic, but any great nugget of advice that you have for these incoming students for how to succeed in law school. Renee?
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, I have a couple of pieces of advice. My number one piece of advice is do something you normally wouldn't do, like join a club or go to the moot court and like volunteer to be a witness when you're a 1L, or the client or whatever it is. You know, do something that you normally wouldn't do, because you're going to surprise yourself with, you know, whether you like something that you otherwise wouldn't have tried. So my first piece of advice is absolutely try something new. The second piece of advice is talk to people you normally wouldn't talk to. So go to those receptions. Come up to the people that are wearing suits and talk to us, because every single time I come to the law school, I bring a stack of business cards with me and I give them to students. I'm like, listen, if you have any questions about anything that you think I might know anything about, I'm happy to answer your question, and I'll put my cell phone on the back. And people do take me up on that, and I can help them kind of navigate through certain things that, you know, whatever the topic was that I was at the school for, or something beyond that. And then the third piece of advice is kind of just a quirky saying that I heard in law school, but it's effective, and that is, you know, fake it till you make it. If you're nervous, you know, pretend like you're confident, smile. When you smile, it tricks your brain into thinking that you're happier than you are. You know, fake it till you make it, because the thing is that all of this is temporary. The nervousness, the anxiety, you will get there and everything will be fine. Just give it some time, because it's an adjustment. But once you settle in, you're going to be fine.
Joe, nugget of advice?
Sure. Yeah. Well, on what Renee said, she's absolutely right. I mean, we wouldn't be at those receptions and at those events if we didn't want to engage and interact with students and other, other alums and stuff like that. So, I mean, don't feel like you're bothering somebody. That's literally why we are there. Separately, I would say, don't keep an open mind and don't have tunnel vision. Some people go to law school having no idea what they want. Some people think they know exactly what they want. I got there. I was going to clerk for a judge, and I was going to be a litigator, and I was going to do all this. I now do corporate law, and I will probably never see the inside of a courtroom unless I'm being sued for something. So, really, you don't know what you don't know, and you may, and the best way to do that is to try things. And I tried litigation internships, and I actually liked them. And I thought, well, now I know I'm going to be a litigator. And it wasn't until I tried the last internship that I said, well, I liked all those things, but I actually like this even more. And so here I am. So definitely keep an open mind and try as many different type of field placements and internships and clerkships as you can. You may love all of them, but hopefully you find the one you love the most.
Alyssa?
So I think somebody had mentioned this earlier, but my number one thing I would say is do not compare yourself to others. All of us in law school inevitably are type A. And I think the hardest part was one all year, you think that everyone else knows everything about everything and you don't. And there's, this internal fear that you don't know things. And so I would say what works I always turn back to this instance because I distinctly remember it's towards fall semester and I'm looking at somebody else's screen and this girl has like 3 Word documents up, right? Like one is like her real outline, one is her notes. I don't even know what the other one was. And I was thinking like, well, I only have like 1, like, should I have 3? I don't know. And so then you lose sight of what works for you. Again, it's great that I saw that because I realized I don't want 3 windows on my computer screen when I'm trying to learn. But to not be, afraid to do what works for you. That could be handwriting. I handwrote all my notes. It could be, using a computer. You're going to try different things that aren't going to work out. And that's okay. And realize, again, what works for somebody else may not work for you. As long as you stay true to yourself and how you learn. I think that's the most important thing.
That's great advice. Rebecca, bring us home. I think you're on mute.
There we go. Sorry. I think I wanted to echo what Alyssa was saying because I think that comparison factor, I know Jess had kind of talked about it a little bit too. I think that can be really hard 1 L a year. But I remember going to the library and seeing people that would have already been at the library before and after I was already leaving, and they looked really focused and like they were gonna, they were learning everything that I wasn't. But I think that you can really, even if you don't do so well on some assignments or even in your first semester, it's not a death sentence. You can always come back from it. And ultimately, like if you feel like you didn't do that well on a particular assignment or in a class during a semester, you can always go back to different professors and they will sit down with you and kind of point out those weak spots. And also if you didn't come from like a political science background, I know Mina had mentioned, she was pre-med. I was an art major. I think everyone has something of value to contribute, and even like those skills from my past career and even my, undergraduate major, art major, I use them all every day. I do a ton of marketing for our firm currently and use my, creativity in that way. So you all have something to contribute that's positive, and you all have these unique experiences, and I think you can really capitalize on them and never for 1 second think that it's a weakness.
Yeah, that's all great advice. The only thing I'll add is just take advantage of all the fantastic opportunities that you have at the law school through the clinics, through the externships, through the alumni that are there to help you, and take advantage of each other. We're all in this same boat together, and you'll have counterparts friends who go to all their stories of the level of competition between students there. People hiding books so that people couldn't complete assignments. And that's not the case here at Albany Law. It really is a great community feeling from day one. So, use each other as tools. You're all going to succeed together. That's all I had. Again, thank you all for being here. We're all looking forward to meeting you come next school year, and looking forward to practicing law with you.
Yes, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you again to our panelists for taking the time to talk with us about the AIM program, and for our potential students that are on the call with us today. If you have any additional questions, anything comes up after the fact, feel free to reach out to us at either admissions@albanylaw.edu or alumni@albanylaw.edu, and we'd be happy to get you answers. So thanks so much for joining us today.